Hey there, guys. This is Flamzeron, aka YouTube's Tasuke, and the day has finally come. It's been a little bit, and frankly, I was expecting it to take a little longer than it did. Time definitely flies when you're having fun and doing things, but now the time has come for me to review Dragon Ball Super Broly, the latest Dragon Ball movie, the 20th Dragon Ball movie in total, actually. If you remember me doing the uh, news video about it, and I've been talking a lot about it on my podcast about like all the different um trailers and whatnot. In fact, if you want to listen to a group discussion on the movie, then I would recommend listening to the podcast episode that will be going up before this video review, where it's just me going solo, because we talk about the movie there, have a nice little discussion. So if you want sort of like another perspective, there you go. I'm obviously recording this before we record that episode, but I'm recording this like the night after, or like several hours after I've seen the movie. I saw it. I'm recording this on the 17th. I saw it on the 16th. It was in select theaters, but thankfully they actually, for one thing, they showed it for a longer time, and two, they opened it up to other theaters. One of which being pretty close to me. Within like I think like 5 minutes at most, maybe. Even with traffic, it wasn't really that far. So I guess you could say this was almost more like a. I'm not too big on like the movie theater, track record or like how they handle things, but it almost kind of seemed like they were treating this more like just like a standard indie movie, which I think is probably fair. So I feel like it probably got what most indie movies probably get, maybe. Again, I'm not a movie guy necessarily. I'm a Dragon Ball guy though, so I can still talk about things. But yeah, it's gonna review this bad boy. Um, the experience of seeing the movie was pretty good. Saw it with Troy and my friend Alan. It was pretty good. I wore my awesome Dragon Ball holiday sweater that I got for Christmas. And there was also a Krillin cosplayer, and that was pretty cool. But that's the experience was pretty good. It was one of those like dinner and a movie places where you could get food, so pretty good experience. Probably I kind of messed up on the seats though because I had us in the back, like in the back row, because I think I kind of it was assigned seating, and I think I kind of messed up the um, seats a little bit. But we were still able to enjoy the movie in its fullest. But enough rambling about my experience actually seeing the movie, and how about I actually talk about the movie now. So the plot of this movie, it starts off with a big flashback. It's more or less an expanded Dragon Ball minus. It opens with Frieza, or really King Cold rather, and his forces, along with a young Frieza, go into Planet Vegeta to meet with King Vegeta. And when they get there, King Cold is like, "Hey, I'm actually going to retire soon, so you're going to be serving under my son, Frieza." This is Frieza. He's a lot like me. He's kind of short-tempered, and he's colder than me. And I think one of his lines is, "The Cold Force will now become the Frieza Force." And to show off how ruthless Frieza is, it's all like he introduces the Scouters, and he's all like, "Oh, what's this? I can sense people in the buildings. Like, oh, they have snipers?" Like, and he just like kills them. So just to kind of show how ruthless Frieza is. And then after that, it goes into King Vegeta looking at the Vegeta we know, Vegeta the Fourth. So it would seem. I don't really know if it was really important that we know that he's the fourth Vegeta. I guess that makes King Vegeta the third. I don't know. It makes me kind of wonder what exactly the lineage is, but that's okay. And he's looking at his son, Prince Vegeta, and the little pod thing is all like, "He's gonna be awesome." And then he sees Broly. Broly. If you didn't already know, this is a reboot of Broly, pretty much. The canon version of Broly, I guess we'll say, the Akira Toriyama version of Broly. He sees Broly and he's like, "What the fuck is this low-class kid doing with my high royalty son?" And these certain people are like, oh, well, we put him here because he has a really high battle power. And that's one thing I actually want to go ahead and note. They still say Saiyan, obviously. But I noticed there were a couple different terminology changes with this movie. For one thing, instead of power levels, they do battle power, which I'm actually kind of okay with. I like battle power. It sounds cool. But another thing I noticed when referring to Beerus, when we actually get to the present timeline, Beerus is referred to as a destroyer god. And at one point in the movie, Goku refers to him as a god of destruction, which I found both those kind of interesting because that was almost like, using new terminology for this movie. It's almost like they're using this movie to maybe sort of switch up the terminology a little bit because, in the dub of Super, they were using Destroyer. I think in Battle of Gods, they used Destroyer. I don't know if that was like a Toei thing or if the script writers was all like, hey, let's do this, or maybe Chris Sabat or Justin Cook, whoever was in charge of things, seemed to have made that call, and, it's whatever. I think it's actually kind of fun. I actually kind of like the use of God Destruction, over like just Destroyer. I feel like it kind of puts more weight to what Beerus actually is. I mean, granted, if you're called a destroyer, I think most people would assume what you do, but, and so, they take a little reader thing to Broly's power, and it's like, holy shit, it's off the charts, and like it short circuits. I think it even blows up the little reader thing, and King Vegeta's all like, yeah, no, and it goes to, I don't remember if they actually say this beforehand, or if I think they do, because I remember King Vegeta being like, he could be a threat to us all. So basically, he's planning to send Broly off to like this small ass planet, truthfully, so he'll die, because they go to like this. It's called a Vampa. I don't really know what the pun. I think it's called like a planetoid Vampa. It's like this really desolate planet where there's not really anything besides like these bug monsters and this like weird furry worm guy who Broly ends up calling Ba. We'll go into Broly later on as a character. But Paragus gets word of this. For those of you who don't know, Paragus is Broly's father from the original movie, and he's back for this movie as well. He comes in, seeks an audience with King Vegeta, which is also something that happened in the original movie. The context is a little different, whereas King Vegeta has already sent off, or it's revealed that he already sent off Broly to Vampa, but we aren't told that till near the end of their audience, whereas in the first Broly movie, King Vegeta just straight up tries to kill Broly as a baby, like with a little dagger and whatnot. And so Perry's like, what the fuck, dude? Why'd you send my son off to this like low-level planet? He's like a high-level warrior. And it's all like, and King Vegeta's like, to be honest, the whole reason why I sent him there is because his power is like a little too high, and it could kind of like be dangerous. And of course, Paragus is like, oh, you're jealous that my son's gonna be stronger than your son. And so he like breaks off and like steals a space pod with this Kaba looking guy who's apparently named Beats, as in, like the Beats, Beets, not Beat from fucking Dragon Ball Heroes. But they take a space pod, they go to Vampa, and there they find Broly, and that's where they start, I think Paragus' plan is to find Broly and take him to like another planet, I think, because I think at this point they're going to, do something else. Of course, Paragus wants revenge on King Vegeta, so that's one thing. Another thing I'll say, like, I was expecting this to kind of be like a Kakaroto, and then like in the climax, like, wait, no, it was Frieza. But here it's more like a Vegeta kind of thing. I wasn't really expecting Vegeta to be the symbol, I was gonna say symbol of hate, but that's not, the target of hate, I guess. The one that the antagonist being Broly and Paragus hate. The difference here is that it's on Paragus and not Broly. Broly actually has kind of like a different sort of development and a different outcome too. And so what happens? They find Broly, and but what happens is they're like the main core of their ship. I almost said Blastia because Vesperia Definitive Edition came out, so I've been playing that. So that's a little on my mind as well. But the little, basically, I don't remember if it's like specifically the core or like a part of the engine, but basically their ship cannot, take flight. They can't leave the planet, and they're out at radio range, so they can't like ask for help. And they apparently have food for 10 days. And Beats is freaking out, and then Paragus is being all calm, like, well, there's a one way we can cut down on food. And, like, he takes a little ray gun thing and kills Beats with it, like, shooting him in the chest. And it's almost kind of quick, and it's sort of, like, very... I mean, obviously, it probably hurt Beats. Like, he probably had a little ouch that he felt, but, like, it's really quick. It's almost kind of, like, numbing in a way, I guess. But, like, it's just really like that, and, like, Beats is out. And so, Paragus and Broly are stranded on this planet Vampa. Or Vampa. I'm pretty sure it's Vampa. Then it goes to Frieza. It fast forward to later on when Frieza is older. Because when I first saw the trailer, they showed this footage. They showed Frieza not wearing any armor, and I didn't like that because I felt like, well, and that's one thing that well, no, I take that back, because I was thinking, like, this sort of retcons the idea of the Saiyan armor being Frieza Force armor. Like, well, technically, it's King Cold's armor. Like, King Cold wore like an armor plate thing too, so it could be a thing that King Cold started, but it's still technically the Frieza Force armor. So it fast forward, and this is where kind of the Dragon Ball minus part of it kind of comes in, where I think his name is Kokino. This like little yellow looking guy. He's all like, Lord Frieza, the Super Saiyan and the Super Saiyan God, the legends. So you want to kill all the Saiyans because you're scared and shit? That's basically what it is. I'd have to rewatch the movie to really get the full quote. I will say this one more thing about the experiencing it. Like, since we saw, I don't know if it was because we sat in the back or if just how they had the volume, but the bass was like turned up like really high, and there were a couple of times where the voices were kind of hard to hear. Like, once we got to the present timeline stuff, that's when the volume more or less kind of calmed down. I don't know if this is like sort of like, I mean, since we went in opening night, it kind of makes sense that like they would, this is also kind of their trial one. I don't know if like with movies they do like a quick trial run like during off hours and be like, hey, let's make sure this movie actually works. Like they play like, maybe 5 minutes of a movie and like, oh, is the sound working? Yeah, is the picture working? Good. It looked really good. Visually looked really good. But yeah, so we do the whole thing with, Bardock coming home to see Gine, and it's all like, sup, baby girl? No, not much. And it's like, oh, I've got this, and Bardock has this suspicion about Frieza, because what's basically happened is that Frieza has called all of the Saiyans to come back to the planet, and Bardock's all like, well, why would he want us all to be here? Like, if it's like weapons, we don't have to all pick him up, and if he just wanted to tell like the army, like he could have just told us through the scouters that he gave us. And so he's like, I got a bad feeling about this. And he starts to get kind of more anxious, and so he's thinking like, okay, so here's my plan, Gine. After dark, we're going to take our son Kakarot and put him in a space pod and then send him away so he'll survive. It's like, what? No. He's like, if I'm wrong, I'll come get him. And, all that stuff. So they show that. And it's like, I send him to a place called Earth. The price on it is so low that we won't really, like, hopefully it won't get picked up by, for the Frieza Force. And that's another thing that, I don't know if you'd call that a retcon. I mean, I don't think this was never technically, like, completely clarified, but it almost kind of sounded like, based on this movie, that the whole destroying planets and selling them thing was a thing that the Saiyans were doing already, and that Frieza came and was like, hey, I want to get on this shit. Or, I want to get on... I can't do Frieza. I can't do a Chris Ayers Frieza, which he is back for. He had the... I think it was, like, the surgery on his lungs. Or, like, he had to get, like, some sort of, like... He had some sort of medical condition which kind of put him out of commission for voice work. But he's back in this movie, and he sounds great. It's pretty awesome. And of course, Jason Douglas is back as King Cold. He sounds good too. The cast, the returning characters is all pretty much the same. Damian Clark is still Paragus. Vic Mignogna is still Broly, and all that. Monica Rial is a Bulma. Though I guess in terms of the Japanese version, it's not the first, but this is like Aya Hisakawa, I believe her name is, who is Judith in Vesperia. There I go again with Tails. This is like her first big thing as Bulma besides that commercial. So it'll be once the Blu-ray comes out, it'll be kind of interesting to hear kind of how things are. But yeah, so to get back on track, they made it kind of sound like in this movie that the Saiyans were already doing the whole selling planets thing, that King Cold came in and was all like, hey, I want to capitalize on this. Whereas I was kind of under the impression that, like, beforehand they were just kind of doing their own thing, and then when Frieza or King Cold or whoever came in was all like, hey, let's fucking, get these warrior race alien guys who look like monkeys, and refine them or whatever. Probably not refine them, but let's basically hire these people and let's make them slaves to us, and they use the term slave a lot in this movie, which is kind of interesting. I guess I suppose that's technically what they are. I think previously they were kind of portrayed as being like, employees almost. Though I think slave is actually probably better fitting. Especially if it really turns out that the whole planet selling thing was King Cold's idea, which that's what I was led to believe. That basically it was the Frieza Force that kind of started that whole thing. Whereas here it kind of, I might be sort of misreading what King, because this is a King Vegeta line where he talks about it like before Paragus comes in. But based on the lines in this movie, it sounds like that King Vegeta, or it sounds like the Saiyans were already destroying planets and making them, selling them and stuff. But basically, Bardock picks Earth because he feels like that'd be a good place. The technology's kind of low. He's talking, of course, for the time. I imagine from his perspective, and also, the time. And then he's all like, he might succeed there. Like, he doesn't even think about, or he doesn't mention anything about Goku destroying everyone. Of course, the way they're kind of portraying Bardock here is that he's a bit of a different kind of Saiyan. He's not really ruthless and wanting to just fight all day and, do things. He kind of wants to be more of a nice person. In fact, one of his lines is, like, I'm tired of, hurting people. I want to actually save someone for once. I'm like, that's interesting. Not really like the Bardock that most people know. But I feel like his character is still retained pretty well here, because he's sort of like the idea of the rebel, because it was sort of the same thing in the Bardock Father of Goku TV special. Only difference here is that he was a bit more cold, and that's more of the Bardock we're used to. And I think that version of Bardock looks better than this one. That's just my opinion. So they send off Goku, and then it shows Frieza doing his little supernova death ball thing, and destroys Planet Vegeta that way. And one thing that I actually thought was really cool is that it shows Bardock coming in and doing his like it's like it looks more like a one-handed Kamehameha. But I think it's like, what is it, the Riot Javelin thing? I think that's what they call it in like the games and whatnot. I don't know if it's supposed to be the same move. It's more like a beam, and his armor is all beaten up, so it looked like he was in kind of a big fight. And I always kind of want to see, like, was he fighting? And were they doing a thing where like there were some members of Frieza's force that were like fighting the Saiyans to kind of like weaken them and make them tired or something? And Bardock tries to deflect it. The whole thing where like he gets like burned by the flames of Frieza's energy ball, and like the planet just gets destroyed and all that. And one thing I thought was kind of an interesting shot was when it shows the scout on Frieza's face, and it shows the number at the top, and it kept going down and down. Then it showed when the planet was finally destroyed completely, it went down to 0. I'm like, damn, that's quite the creative shot. And of course, then we get to like the actual like little opening preview thing for the actual title. I guess not really the title card, but that was actually kind of cool because they play like that remix of Chala He Chala. You've probably heard it if you watched the Thanksgiving Macy's Parade. I'm pretty sure it's the same version, and they show like a little like showcase of Goku growing up and all that. And also, prior to this, they show Vegeta, Nappa, a few other Saiyans, and Raditz, who are all sent off to another planet. And it's like that's where that whole lie came in with Frieza, where he's like, oh, planet Vegeta was destroyed by a comet, and he's like, what? No. And Vegeta's off like, now I'll never get to be king. That was kind of funny. It's like he doesn't care. I mean, they're kids, so like I actually think that kind of makes sense from a kid's perspective, not really having it a true. I don't think that was their intention, but I understand why. Besides the characters, I can kind of understand why they would feel the way they do. Broly as a kid can sense it as well. He's doing stuff. He's just like eating like these weird like thorny. It almost looks like he's like taking like nails and like breaking them open and eating the honey out of it. But it's pretty sad. But I actually was getting a little emotional when watching it. I didn't like cry or anything, but I was like, damn, this is pretty intense. And then of course we fast forward to Goku and Vegeta sparring in like this island resort with Bulma kind of chilling, Beerus chilling, and Whis also chilling. And then like they're just kind of doing their thing. And after they're done, Whis is like, tell me, Goku, why do you want more strength than you have right now? And then Goku's like, well, the Tournament of Power really opened my eyes. There's so many other fighters out there, and I want to keep getting strong. And he goes Super Saiyan. And they're just kind of talking about their what's been going on. Vegeta yells at Goku because it's his fault that Frieza came back. This is like, they don't specify, I don't think, how long it's been since the Tournament of Power, but it's been a little bit. And so Vegeta's kind of salty about it. That's kind of sort of his reason to kind of get stronger, which is kind of interesting. It's not even about trying to match or be stronger than Goku. Now he wants to just be able to defeat Frieza, because Frieza, at this point has gotten pretty strong as well, to where he can match Goku and Vegeta better. Whereas the whole Resurrection F thing, it was all about like I've achieved this new form. Well, you didn't really try to master it, so it's kind of hurting you. And of course, even then, I feel like with a Tournament of Power, it's like they kind of implied that Goku could probably rein Frieza in, or not even imply. Like I think it was shown pretty well that Goku would be able to rein Frieza in regardless. Vegeta too, probably. Anyway, Bulma gets a call on her little like Apple Watch thing that from Trunks, where it's like, hey, somebody stole the Dragon Balls that you were collecting and like made a mess of your lab, and also took the radar because she was collecting the Dragon Balls to make a wish. And that wish is that she wants to make herself look 5 years younger, and that's actually gonna. I don't remember if this is considered an integrated element from when I was in college learning about writing, and I took a script writing class. But ever since that class, I feel like movies have been low-key ruined for me because of the things I learned there, and things that I was shown when watching movies. So I started noticing things more. I think they're called. I think it is called integrated element, where I think it's something that recurs, and this actually happens twice that I noticed. I don't know. Someone who actually knows a thing about movies and script writing could probably pick up on it more. And it's like, oh, well, you missed this. But these are the two that I say two because there's another. But where Bulma's like, she wanted to get the Dragon Balls because she wants to look 5 years younger. And she doesn't want to look 10 years younger because that would be too obvious. It turns out, based on security footage, that the gang deduced that lower rank Frieza Force members, went to Earth and stole the Dragon Balls and the radar so they could get the Dragon Balls for Frieza. Because Frieza's also, at this point, Frieza's trying to get the Dragon Balls. And Vegeta's like, oh, they brought over weak fighters so that we wouldn't pick up their energy because they're so weak. And And so they're trying to figure out what to do. And Bulma's like, well, I only had 6 of them. I already know where the 7th is. Like, where is it? Oh, it's on this like Arctic place. So let's go over there and retrieve it before Frieza can, because since they have the radar, they kind of know where it is. But so they go over there, and that's where we kind of learn about the whole thing of Bulma wanting to look 5 years younger. It's Goku, Vegeta, Bulma, and Whis that go over there. The Arctic place. Goku and Vegeta get those cool jackets that you probably saw. And then it moves on to space with Frieza's force. Kokino, and then a new character, Barry Blue, who's voiced by Veronica Taylor, who, for those of you who know your old school anime, will know that she was Ash Ketchum in Pokemon. Yep. I think that's actually really cool. She's also young Griffith in the Berserk TV anime. I don't remember if she reprised her role for the movie. Probably not, given the subject matter of the final movie. But they're heading towards Earth to get to meet up with the soldiers who were looking for the 7th Dragon Ball there, and took the other 6 that Bulma had and the Dragon Radar. And it's here that it's revealed that Frieza is collecting the Dragon Balls because he wants to increase his height. Specifically, I think it's like 5 centimeters taller. And again, integrated element, 5 years, 5 centimeters. That's kind of like a small one, but he's like, well, why don't you do more? And it's like, well, I don't want it to be too obvious. And they also kind of like I think it's Koniko, and again, like, I don't remember if his name's Koniko or something else, but I'm pretty sure it's Kokino. I think it's Kokino. No. He's like, well, why don't you go do it in your second? Why don't you just go to your second form, because that's like your tallest form. He's like, well, I want to do it in my normal form, and that kind of clarifies that sort of brings up the because I don't know how much of an argument this has been, but basically what I'm trying to get at is that it sort of shows that Frieza's final form is like his true form. It's more like, his other forms kind of conceal a little bit of his power, whereas as he goes through the stage, it unleashes more of his power, which I think most people probably knew that. But so they're going to Earth, and so then we switch over to 2 other characters, Chirai and Lemo. And they are working for the Frieza Force, and they're looking for other warriors to join the ranks of Frieza's forces. And they hear a distress call on a specific Frieza Force radio signal on, you guess it, Planetoid Vampo. And so they go there, and they find a very decrepit, like really like sort of like raggedy Paragus. And being all like, please, no, don't go. Don't leave me, I need friends. And it's all like, hey, we're looking for warriors. And like, it's either Chilai or Chirai. I don't know if they do the L or the R. I think it's Chirai. She uses her scouter. Yeah, for those of you who only know pictures, she's the green-skinned lady with the white hair. She is low-key my waifu. And she finds Paragus' battle power at like a little over 4,000. I think it's like 4,200 or something, or 4,020 or something. So it's like, oh, you're strong enough. You want to rejoin us? Like, sure. Is there anyone else? Yeah, there's this other guy. And I think it's a monster they have to fight. Which is monsters they show. If I don't remember if you guys, or I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with like the different news articles about it, but I remember there was one where like they showed a enemy from the Broly movie, and it was like a little spider thing. And he's like, oh, what's this spider going to be in? That first section when they go to Planetoid Vampa, that was actually kind of a scary sort of, on like sort of like an interstellar, like alien like type of way. And I don't mean either of those 2 movies, but I mean like you know what I mean, like almost like a space horror kind of thing, which I thought was kind of interesting to see in Dragon Ball. So that was kind of, and it's all like dusty looking, so it's even more spooky. Like I think it's going to be fun to watch. Honestly, I actually kind of want to watch this movie again. It might just be because I'm on a Dragon Ball high now that I've seen this movie, but yeah. So um, they find they get Broly, who I think they show him fighting some like a creature. I don't remember specifically who it is they fight. If it's one of those like spider things, or if it's a another one of those like wormy like fur monsters. But we basically get to see Broly a little bit in action, or at the very least, I remember Paragus calling for Broly for help. And they get Broly, and they go over to Frieza, and they're all like, "Hey, look, brought some new friends for you." Frieza, "Oh, who's this? Hi, I'm Paragus. This is my son Broly. We want to join you." And he's like, "Oh, okay, cool. Hey, you're Saiyans. That's interesting." And of course, Broly here is like looking around. Like Broly's portrayed a little different in this movie than he was originally. Like in his first appearance in that first movie, he's kind of passive and quiet, but he has like he's like at least able to converse at a normal level. Whereas here, it's like he's kind of a savage, and he doesn't really like kind of know a lot of things. Like there's that scene where it's all like he's like staring at Chirai like eating a fucking candy bar, and it's like, "You want one?" And like, "Here, have it." And like he's gonna like eat it. It's like, "Wait, let me take the wrapper off first." Like she hands it out, holds it out, and of course Paragus is like, "It's food, Broly." Like how Daddy has to tell him stuff, and like he eats it, and like he takes one bite, and it's like, like he starts nibbling on it. Which it's kind of funny how he's sort of like a wild case. Of course, Chirai laughs, and they're on Frieza's ship, and they all take showers, get new armor and shit, and of course Paragus explains to Frieza, he's got a really high power and all, so I have to kind of rein him in sometimes. That's what this little shocker thing on his around his neck is. I've got this little beep, this like little button where like I'll shock him, and it'll get him to stop. So they clean up, and then they go to like this like like a cafeteria, like a mess hall or like a cafeteria, basically like a little chill room, like a lounge they like to eat. And this is kind of where Paragus's true colors are kind of shown a little bit. This particular sequence, like Broly's talking to Chirai because he's getting a little more comfortable with it. He's like, "Oh, why aren't you wearing your Saiyan ring?" And he's wearing like the black undershirt, and he's all like, "It doesn't fit well. It's hard to move in." And she's all like, "Oh, well, you get used to it," and stuff. And she kind of pulls on it because it like shows how elastic it is, and all that. And at Paragus, at one point, he's all like, "Broly, we're here to eat, not talk." And what he's trying to do is trying to get him to shut up and like kind of conserve his energy, quote unquote. Like, I don't know how much energy you use by talking, but Chirai's like, "Well, he can talk. Like, don't control him." It's all like, conserve energy and shit. And then this drunk guy comes up and it's all like, "Hey, Chirai, you want to hang out? It's like my pee-pee." And she's like, "No, I do not." And he's like, "Oh, come on." But then Broly steps in and is like, "Hey, knock it off," more or less. Of course, he says it in like his Broly way. He's like, "What's your problem, dude? You gotta be with me." He's like, "Yeah." He like responds really bluntly to what this guy says. I don't remember specifically what he says, but what basically happens is that the guy tries to punch him, doesn't hit him. Broly grabs him by his neck and strangles him. He's like, "No, stop! You're gonna kill him!" And then of course Paragus pulls out his little Zabber, and he's like, "Ah!" And Chirai can see that it's hurting him. And when it's done, and he gets subdued, or like he calms down, like he looks kind of freaked out, like, "Daddy, why would you do that?" And Chirai's like, he's a real person. He's not like a toy, or he's not like an object. He's like, "I use this so I can calm him down, to control him. Like, he could have killed that man." And Chirai, while she's talking to him, sneaks in and grabs the little thing from him without him knowing, and takes it. And they show a scene of Broly kind of sitting with Chirai and limousine, eating like a bunch of fucking Frieza force candy bars and like a thing of water, and it's like, that is good water. Like, it's good water. And she asks about oh, another thing, which kind of prompts Paragus to be all like, shut the fuck up, Broly, we're here to eat, is that Chirai's all like, hey, you should probably take off that little, like, cloth thing around your waist, that green thing that he wears. Like, no, it's mine. He's like, oh, it's important to you. And here he explains that, like, I had this friend named Ba. I call him that because that's the sound he makes. He's like this green creature thing, and he became friends. I was able to train him. We were friends, and it was cool. And then Paragus was all like, yo, you can't be friends with them. You need to train. And so he took his little ray gun and shot off one of Ba's ears, and it made him mad at him, and then by proxy mad at me, and he was never the same after that. And I was worried that they were going to do a thing where it's like Paragus kills Ba to sort of like, me all like, you don't need this, you need to only be strong kind of thing. I'm thinking, like, please don't fucking kill the pet. Like, do I need to log into Does the Dog Die and say, yes, Broly's pet Ba dies because Paragus is a douchebag? But they basically, like, he was never the same after that. It's kind of, I feel like it's low key implied that Ba probably died. Probably, I don't know, or maybe he went away. And Chilai and Limo kind of take sympathy towards him because, like, oh, well, your only friend was just this animal. It's like, yeah. Like, and she's like, oh, I think this is the most you've ever talked before. Like, he's kind of learning as he goes on. I guess that's kind of going along with the whole Zenkai thing of that Sainsui, where, like, you get stronger as you fight, and as you're brought to, like, the brink of death and you're revived, you come back stronger. That kind of thing. That might have been what they're trying to do here. I'm not too sure, but, so. And then, Frieza is all like, hey, Paragus, come here, dog. It's like, what up, Lord Frieza? And he's like, we're going to go to planet Earth, and there you're going to see Prince Vegeta, the guy that you want to get revenge on. Because right after, or like it was either right after or right before Paragus kills Beats, he's all like, I will have my revenge on King Vegeta. And that's sort of where the whole Kakaroto thing, or Kakara, thing comes from, whereas this time it's Paragus being all like, fuck King Vegeta. And of course, the sins of the father are passed on to the son. There's like, it's all like, the sins of your father are now yours to bear. I think that's literally what he says. And of course, Vegeta's like, I don't fucking know this guy. And that's when they get there. Frieza's all like, okay, Vegeta's gonna be there, so you can fight him. My only condition is that the guy Goku is mine. And Frieza gets to be like, I would be the one for, like, he was like, revenge. Well, I want to have revenge on this guy. And Perry's like, oh shit, okay, go ahead, man. So they make it to this Arctic planet, and they meet up, and then Goku's all like, what do you want, Frieza? And they also stop the soldiers who were trying to make off with the Dragon Ball. Of course, Frieza gets all of them anyway, and it's like holding and like levitating them, and like his little palm thing, and like in front of his chest, like he's cradling a baby or whatever. Not really. He's doing it with like one hand, like kind of folded above his diaphragm or whatever. And he's like, what are you doing here, Frieza? Like, I'm here to get the Dragon Balls. And oh, by the way, here, or not even by the way, like, I'm here, my new members. They're Saiyans. This is Paragus and Broly. And then Paragus is all like, you're a douchebag, Vegeta. And it's like, I don't fucking know who you are. I didn't do nothing. And then Broly is getting kind of heated up too, and it's kind of random. He's kind of getting mad for no reason, and it's like, he's itching to fight. And then Barry's like, "Okay, Broly, attack!" And then Broly goes off and fights Vegeta, and they're duking it out. And that's sort of the first big fight here. They're battling. Vegeta's kind of more or less got the upper hand, though. Broly is slowly catching up speed, and he's in his base form. Vegeta, he starts off in his base form. He goes to Super Saiyan, starting to do a lot more damage. And then he goes into what is probably one of the cool parts of this movie. He goes into Super Saiyan God, like the red form, which is something the manga showed, and I'm glad the anime finally showed it as well. Or it's shown in animated form. I mean, this is a movie, not a TV anime. And then it shows Broly kind of beating up Broly. And he's about to, he's actually getting close to killing Broly. And I was wondering if they were going to do that, because I felt like, because they were showing different terrain. I'm thinking like, well, okay, so are they gonna do a thing where Vegeta thinks they think Broly's dead, but he comes back or something? Like, are they gonna combine two movies into one and completely rewrite them? Or, but Vegeta basically almost kills Broly, but he comes back in sort of like this. They describe it as sort of like a partial grade ape form, where he has like heightened abilities and his eyes are yellow and shit. And they kind of show him turning into it, pretty quickly, and he's got like he's got like sort of like the spiked up hair a little bit. I think what they're kind of going for is like it's sort of like a partial grade 8 form. I guess it could be false Super Saiyan, I suppose, but he's in that form. He's given Vegeta a little bit of trouble, and then that's when Goku comes in and decides to switch up, and he goes through his forms, and he's able to catch up, and he goes to Super Saiyan, then he goes to Super Saiyan God, where he does this cool thing where like he's able to freeze Broly in place, with using like his God energy. He's like, I don't think you don't seem like a mean guy, and he almost calms Broly down, but Broly breaks through, and really gives Goku kind of a run for his money. This is sort of where the savageness of Broly kind of comes in. He takes Goku's leg and just starts smashing him against the ground. There's one part where he like takes Goku's by the head and like kind of rams him against a wall of ice. And you can hear Goku kind of wail like he's really getting hurt here. Sean Shamwell did great here. And Goku's kind of like worn out now. Piccolo then comes in and talks to him telepathically. He's like, "Are you okay, Goku? I sense this really tough guy." And Goku's like, "Yeah, like, I might be able to beat him. I'm not sure. Like, if it gets too bad, I'll instant transmission over to you." And he's like, "Okay, good luck, my friend." Or he doesn't say good luck, my friend, but he says good luck. And I'm kind of glad that Piccolo, like, I actually kind of liked that little exchange. I don't know why. I just thought it was cool. So then Goku goes to Super Saiyan Blue, and gives Broly some trubs. But here, and of course at this point, Paragus is thinking like, wait a second, maybe King Vegeta was right. Maybe my son is a loose cannon. So he tries to turn off. I think this is prior, because I think when he goes into his partial Super Saiyan form, the thing around his neck like the electric collar breaks, so he's uncontainable now. And he tries to Paragus tries to shock Broly, but he can't find it because one, she like took it, and two, she broke it, like she destroyed it. So I think she destroys it like right after Paragus leaves to talk to Frieza. She's like, "This is what I think of it," and just like crushes it. He's like, "Oh no!" And he tries to call for Broly, and he's also kind of fearing for Broly's safety, because like it looks like they're about to like kill Broly. And I think this is during the Vegeta fight when this happens. But we move on to Goku. And it gets pretty serious. And it's at kind of at a point where like it seems like Goku kind of has the upper hand, but Frieza's actually kind of enjoying this. And like, is this the extent of Broly's power? Like, I think it might be. And of course, Frieza's like, "Oh wait, does your son not know how to go Super Saiyan?" Because at this point, Frieza's not really scared of Super Saiyan. Like, he's kind of used to it at this point. Kind of like how King Cold wasn't really scared of it when he first saw it when Trunks did it. And so Frieza gets this idea because he thinks about how Goku got really pissed when he killed Krillin, when Frieza killed Krillin, and how Goku went Super Saiyan. So he's thinking, like, wait a minute. Remember Integrated Element? How Paragus shot Beats and killed him? Well, Frieza does the same fucking thing. And of course, at this point, like, due to the big explosion, Paragus got like kind of knocked back and is sort of like laying against a rock. And so Frieza takes like a little finger beam and kills Paragus. And pretty much the same way that Paragus killed Beats. And like he looks at he does really quietly too, which kind of sucks. And then Frieza's like, it's like, Broly, it's terrible. Paragus has been killed in action. And it's funny, like he switches to like, oh no, woe is me kind of thing. I'm just like, holy shit, Frieza, you are a scumbag. Like, you are a douchebag beyond belief. And of course, Broly loses his shit and goes fucking. This is kind of more like, I think in Xenoverse 2 they call it full power Super Saiyan, and it basically is Super Saiyan, but it's like a Super Saiyan rage kind of thing. Plus Broly having such like really raw power. I don't know if they'll ever explain why, but he just has really raw power. Goes into like he basically goes legendary Super Saiyan, but it's technically just a regular form of Super Saiyan. I think in the first Broly movie, you could almost imply that, or rather, it kind of seemed like that legendary Super Saiyan was almost like around Super Saiyan 2 level, which makes sense as to why that would be kind of tough to beat. Whereas here, I think it's more that I think with Broly, and I think this is something that most people will probably pick up on. Broly's an interesting Saiyan in that he's become really strong without going Super Saiyan, and I think him as a character, he kind of brings to the table like, okay, well, imagine being really strong but not even knowing how to go Super Saiyan. Like, can you imagine how powerful you'll be if you're not even using like your technical, hypothetical full strength? And if you go Super Saiyan while knowing this, like, you can just imagine how powerful you'd be. So he goes Super Saiyan. At this point, Vegeta has to jump in and help Goku defeat Broly, but they're struggling. Goku instant transmissions them to where Piccolo is, and it's kind of funny how they do it. They like, because at this point Broly is in kind of like a mad rage, and that's kind of another thing they're trying to stop. Broly kind of going crazy. I imagine if he was still in sort of like his like base form, where he was like kind of just battle ready, and he had his like basic black-eyed or brown-eyed pupils, he would have been able to be subdued a little bit easier through words. Whereas when he was in his sort of like great ape essence form, or his full power Super Saiyan, using Xenoverse 2 terminology, you can't really reason with him anymore. And they lead him toward Frieza, and they like go behind him, like, wait, what? And like he starts beating up Frieza. And when this happened, everyone fucking cheered, which I thought was kind of funny, because it's just like, it was almost like everyone was just sick of seeing Frieza as well. If you've listened to the podcast and our Tournament of Power review, which if it's not up by now, it'll go up pretty soon. As I'm recording this, I still need to edit it. We actually kind of record it in sort of a different way than we normally do. But we gave it the full treatment. I got kind of tired at the end, but basically, it seems like the audience was kind of tired of seeing, and everyone kind of cheered. We're like, dang, that's kind of funny. And we all knew from the trailers that Frieza was going to fight Broly, and they show a little bit of it where Frieza goes golden form and is like, it's almost like he's kind of trying to hold off Broly, and he's not even really doing much damage to him. Whereas Piccolo and Goku try to teach Vegeta how to do the fusion dance. And it's kind of funny. Like, this is embarrassing. I was like, well, we fused before. I was like, I don't want to do a stupid pose. Like, so you don't mind if it's like I think I'd rather have Broly kill me. Like, it's funny. Like, this movie actually has a few funny lines. The script in this movie, I think, was actually really good. And so Goku's trying to teach Vegeta the fusion dance, and so he does it with Piccolo. And it's funny, like, when they're doing like the finger things, like it looks like Piccolo's eyes twitching. He's like, oh, this is embarrassing too. I feel you, Vegeta. And of course they have to run through the, oh, you almost had it, but like you were like, your fingers weren't like in the right position, so you're fat now. Or, oh, the angle was off by like, Vegeta was Goku was like a 45-degree angle, Vegeta was a 60-degree angle. Like, you guys fucked up. So they go skinny. And then finally they get it right. It's like, this was sort of another funny scene where it's all like, right, now go. By the way, what do I call you? I don't know. Maybe Gokuja. Or Gobija. Or what? Like, I don't think I'm like, no, this is actually pretty important. Like, oh, Gogeta. And that's where, and of course, this is around the time it was like, "We are Gogeta," that line, and they teleport, or they instant transmission to the battle zone, where now Whis is taken over, which are like, oh, that's kind of cool. Where Whis and Broly Whis is kind of dodging him. I think Whis could probably have beaten Broly. He's just kind of stalling for time. Though he almost kind of seemed like he was ready to like jump in, which I find kind of interesting. I don't know if I don't know why he would want to interfere. And it's kind of funny that Beerus isn't even here at all. It's kind of funny how like he's because I remember in Battle of Gods he was like the big hotness, and then when Resurrection F came along, like he was still kind of like the big hotness. So like him being there was actually kind of wow. Whereas this time, like he's only in for like a little bit, and he's stuck babysitting Bola. It's funny, like there's literally like a scene where like when they're leaving, like he's holding Bola in his arms, and like there's one where she's on his like belly as he's laying across on like the little recliner thingy, like the beach chair. And he's like, I guess things have calmed down now. And this of course is after the fight's over, which I will not tell you yet what happens. I'm getting there. You got to listen. So here it's, the classic, the big fight that I think most people from my generation of Dragon Ball fans who grew up watching the show on Toonami, and all that. And, the group that kind of knew a little bit, like, because I started with Dragon Ball Curse of the Blood Rubies. Of course, my big exposure to the remainder was Toonami. And it was after that, subtapes and whatnot. Next, so I guess I'm an in-betweener, maybe. I don't know what you would call me in terms of the generation of Dragon Ball fans. And of course, there are people who grew up with Kai. There are people who are probably going to say, I grew up with Super. And that's going to be interesting to see down the line. So everyone's the hypest fight of all time, basically, which was one of my concerns as to why I didn't really want Gogeta to be in this movie, because from my perspective, it was kind of fanficky. And I know there's like, well, what about Xenoverse and fusions and heroes? And it's like, I see your point, and I agree with your point. This ain't any better. Now, granted, here I feel like they actually did it pretty well. It didn't really. It was very much for show, but like I felt like it wasn't like trying to like shove it in my face, like, oh, this is a really cool fight, Gogeta versus Broly. And Gogeta starts off in his base form, then goes Super Saiyan, then he finally goes to Blue, and that's sort of where all the cool shit happens. He does that cool like rainbow ball move. Like he kind of starts beating the shit out of Broly. And there's one part where he really just like, I don't know if it's because they know that like the time limit's up or is getting close to being up or what, but just like, holy shit, like he does like this epic, like he does like 3 punches to Broly's like belly and like just really smacking him in there, like lifts him up, does that thing where he's all like, ah! Where like that big blue wave of energy, and where like it shows Broly being like eclipsed by, it's like, holy shit, that is just raw power right there. That's actually probably the coolest move in my opinion that Gogeta has, where he's like, pshaw! And then he knocks Broly back, and Broly is still in his full power Super Saiyan form, but his pupils are back. Or his pupils are coming back. So he's starting to kind of come to his senses, either out of fear or like he just, I don't know. And at this point, they show Chirai and Lemo the pun on his name is a lemon. I think Chirai might be chili. I'm not sure. Or no, Raichi. It's Raichi. Or Lychee. Like Dr. Raichi. So Chirai. Again, I'd have to look if it's Chi-Lai or Chi-Rai, but she's all like, oh, he doesn't deserve this, like, he's not fighting because he wants to, he was basically conditioned to fight, like it was Paragus, he doesn't deserve this, we need to try and save him. And so they gather the Dragon Balls, and while Gogeta is doing his big ass Kamehameha that'll probably kill Broly, like it'll straight up kill Broly, Lemo and Chilai, use the Dragon Balls, summon Shenron, and she has fucking Kokino by gunpoint. It's like, read this. And it's like a piece of paper. Like, okay, this is how you do it. Because like Frieza apparently had him write down how to use Shenron. So she says, save Broly, move him away, move him back to his planet, to Vampa. And so before the Kamehameha hits him, he gets teleported away to Vampa. And so the day is won that way, and that's sort of where they show Beerus and Bola being all, and he's all like, I guess it's done now. And of course Gogeta's all like, oh, cool, like he says, and I think that's probably Goku being all like, yeah, he wasn't really that bad a guy. So, and Frieza, like, and they and Chidai and Lemo escape to go find Broly to kind of help him out and live with him and be his friends because they sympathize with him. Frieza's about to shoot it down. Gogeta grabs Frieza's hand. Is like, no, you don't. And it's like, fine. And then of course Frieza does because he's apparently the Skeletor now of Dragon Ball, like literally the recurring villain that always comes back in the next episode that you can't really kill until you want to actually just end the entire storyline, apparently. Which I'll get to the whole Frieza situation later on. But Frieza's like, I will one day defeat you. And he plans to try to recruit Broly. I don't think that Broly's gonna go for Frieza anymore. And one of the last scene is when they show Chirai and Lemo hanging out with Broly on Vampa, and then Goku shows up. And his like regular game's like, hi Broly, what up? Like, what are you doing here? It's like, oh well, I'm not here to fight. My friend Broma has these capsules, and like he has 3 of them. He pulls one out, like throws it, and it's a house. It's like a little tiny house with like a bed and whatnot to give him sort of like a better place to sleep and whatnot. And then Goku's all like, that Broly, you're really strong. I want to fight you again someday, and I want to teach you a few things too. You've got some things you can learn. So he kind of wants to be friends with Broly and stuff. But and Chidai is being kind of hostile here. He's like, it's fine if you don't want to be friends. I just kind of want, a new friend, a new buddy to fight. And like, she eventually she softens up to him pretty quickly. And as he's leaving, and this is one of the final lines of the movie, he's like, hey, what's your name? And actually, I hate to say it, but I did kind of spoil myself on this one thing because it was really. I kept seeing videos in my recommended of like special scenes from the movie, or like certain scenes from the movie, and of course it's like the recorded in the movie theater version that someone probably did at the premiere, so it's like the pirated version. So for one thing, I didn't want to watch that to support that, and 2, I didn't want to spoil myself on the actual like movie itself. But I did look up. I like looked at the movie and like I went all the way down. And because I wanted to find also more information, like because I wanted to look at spoilers, but I also didn't. I can't help it. I'm a Dragon Ball nut, and I've been calling myself a nut lately, and I think that's very true. I'm a fucking nut. And this is where I learned Goku's last line, which is, "My name is Goku, but Broly, call me Kakarot," and that's where the movie ends. And I knew about that, and that's kind of how I figured out that the movie was over, more or less, because since I knew that line, it's like, well, I didn't actually read the full synopsis, so as far as I know, maybe there's more to the movie. I think this was sort of a fake thing, but I saw a recommended video where it's all like, we shows Goku how Frieza destroyed planet Vegeta, and Goku remembers. And I think that was probably either some like clickbait shit or what. So like I kept looking for that, and I think because of that to me the movie felt a little fast. I guess I'll get into that in terms of like the critique part, or sort of like my thoughts on it rather. There was no end credit scene as well. But like to me the movie felt really fast. I think part of it was because in terms of like plot points, it really kind of was just like pieces of one big thing, and that's the fight with Broly. It's kind of like the what you'd expect from like the classic Dragon Ball Z movies, where it's like it's more about fighting the bad guy. Which Battle of Gods and Resurrection F kind of did the same thing anyway. Like there was a little bit there was still setup, but it was ultimately like one big battle or like a group battle or like whatever, a war or what have you. And I think because of that, because I think it's also because I was so used to the structure of the show, how like they were working toward, especially with the Tournament of Power, how like they were working towards an event, but there was still a lot of like prep work and like a lot of like scenes to kind of fill out the storyline. And I think because of that, this movie felt very fast. Like I'm thinking like, oh, we're already at the Gogeta stuff, or we're already at the fighting part. Like shit, Broly's already Super Saiyan. Like I found that very it felt very fast. Not really in a bad way looking back at it. I actually found that it kind of reminded me of like I remember the first time I saw the BoJack movie, I remember it moved like really fast. And of course in that situation there are like several battles because it's a tournament. But I remember it being really fast. Like honestly, if you went up to me and said like, "Hey, this movie is actually like 45 minutes," I would honestly believe you because it felt really fast, even though it's like a little over an hour, like you would expect from most Dragon Ball movies today. Because back in the day, with the exception of like I think the first Broly movie, Path to Power, and maybe like one or two more, they were all like not even a full hour because they were like special movies that went along with they were like a double feature. So like it was one of those things where like both of them was like 90 minutes. So, but it was a dope movie. Moved a little fast, which I think it also could be that like the movie itself is just generally like regular pace, but like just the way the movie is like it's a lot faster, or it moves faster because it's a lot of action. So it was pretty cool. The choreography I thought was pretty cool, and the animation was really nice. I actually kind of like this new animation. I wasn't really feeling it the first time I saw it. I kind of like it now. It looks good. I imagine this is probably what Super is gonna look like when that show starts up again. When we get into like the whole Moro stuff, the Galaxy Prison arc or whatever you fucking call it, with that little Moro guy, that wizard boar looking dude. But I'm glad that Broly is alive this time around. I actually kind of like that they made him a good guy, more or less. Like I know Frieza's like gonna be pining for him as well, but I think honestly at this point Broly is probably a good guy. And I think that he'll be pretty useful to the good guys. Who knows? Maybe he'll take part in like the next big tournament with the universe, and maybe he'll have like a controlled. Maybe he'll be like Kale, where he's mastered he's mastered his regular Super Saiyan form, and then he's able to do Super Saiyan 2 and whatnot. That actually would be kind of cool. Who knows? With Frieza, it seemed pretty clear to me after watching this movie that him being revived in the Tournament of Power completely actually kind of drove this movie a little bit. I don't think this movie would have happened as easily if he wasn't there. It probably could have happened. Maybe you would have had to explain how Paragus and Broly get off Vampa and how they're able to find Vegeta. So I mean, it probably could have been done, but I do think Frieza being here actually really helped drive this movie a little bit. So even though he's still here to stay, I actually think it actually was good that he was still alive for this movie, or to be in this movie. Now, the fact that they didn't kill him off is making me wonder, well, what else are you going to use him for? Like, I'm almost wondering if they're trying to kind of set up the whole Xenoverse and Heroes thing where, like, there's now Frieza's race. Like, he has, like, offspring and whatnot. Or, like, you can play as, like, the Frieza race and in Xenoverse and whatnot. I'm almost wondering if he's going to, like, reproduce asexually, like, 10,000 kids and be all like, I want to have children. maybe he'll finally seduce Goku, and Goku will put his wee wee inside him and be like, "Oh, yes, Goku," and they'll make a Frieza person Saiyan hybrid. That's scary. Um, I guess the same thing kind of with Broly too, because I mean, like, you know, I know with Dragon Ball Online, they were kind of like doing a thing where it's like, oh well, humans and Saiyans are now basically the same fucking thing because like everyone is basically a Saiyan. Of course, with Broly, you know, like, well, he can have offspring, or I don't know, maybe there's another Saiyan out, because they kind of imply that there's some other Saiyans out there who maybe survive. So there could be other Saiyans out in Universe 7 that are hiding, and of course Universe 6 as well. They've got Saiyans as well, and maybe that's where the whole Saiyans from Xenoverse and whatnot come from. Maybe we're actually playing people from Universe 6 and we didn't even know it. The backstory with Bardock and King Cold and all that was pretty intense. I'm kind of glad that they started it at the beginning of the movie instead of like starting it off like with Goku and Vegeta, then like doing a flashback in the middle, and then going back to the present time. I think it was kind of good to I think it kind of helped to get into the mood. I think it kind of lends itself better to the movie. Music was nice. I mean, from what I could hear of it, because again, the whole bass thing. When the Blu-ray comes out, I'll probably watch it again just to kind of enjoy it. I might even watch the subbed version. It'd be kind of interesting to hear. It'd be interesting to hear Aya Hisakawa's Bulma, and it'll be interesting to hear how Bin Shimada, who did Broly before, does him now. Because this is obviously a different kind of Broly, so Vic Mignogna kind of does it a little differently. It still sounds like Vic Mignogna, but the way he portrays Broly is a little different. You can actually kind of tell it's Vic Mignogna a little better here than you could in the original, I think. And his base form, I mean, because his base form, he was really quiet in the original movie. But yeah, overall, I liked this movie. The animation was good. The fight choreography was cool. Had a lot of action to it. It was quick paced, and I almost kind of wish there was a little more substance to it. But I feel like what we got was really good, and I feel like that extra substance, like I don't even really know what else I'd want. But maybe just some other scenes with some other characters. Preferably stuff that actually lends itself to the story. I guess that's one thing that without knowing what's coming next in this Goku versus Frieza ongoing arc, this battle almost seems kind of doesn't really seem to add anything besides just being a cool fight. Of course, like, I don't have anything to really base that off of, just based on, what we have right now. It's one of those things where I think going forward, once we see what happens next, like, who knows, maybe Frieza will actually convince Broly. And maybe he'll be like, oh, well, it's like, well, what happened to my father? Frieza's like, oh, well, Goku shot an energy blast when you weren't looking, or Vegeta shot an energy blast when you weren't looking. Like, what? Of course, I don't think Broly would fall for that. I don't know. But yeah, it was fast paced, and I do kind of wish it had a little bit more. And I am wondering kind of what exactly this is going to do to the rest of the story. Like basically, what does this mean? What does this mean for the rest of the story? Like, what is this? To what end is this movie for? Basically, That's not a negative necessarily. I'm more kind of like wondering, like, well, what's going to happen next? It was a great movie either way, and it was that thing where Gogeta was like, and did like that cool like pillar thing, and like basically like low-key evaporated Broly. Like that was actually probably one of my favorite parts, where like he's just like where he's like friggin' rolling on Broly. I also really liked when Vegeta was sort of giving Broly a run for his money in that first fight. So yeah, it was a good movie. I'm gonna rate it probably a 9 out of 10. Honestly, like, I don't really like. I know I said it's kind of quick, and I feel like I wanted more substance, and that I'm kind of curious as to where this is going. But those aren't really complaints. More like, well, it would, like, if I wanted to add more, like, what would I want? And I wonder where this is leading. It's more like curiosity than anything else. And who knows? Maybe when I get it on DVD, it'll feel longer. Who knows? You know, I don't know. Maybe being in a movie theater actually did something. But yeah, good movie. I liked the um, animation and the fight choreography, and the voice acting was really good. I thought the script was good. Um, I thought the story was really good. I thought it was I think Broly's backstory is better this time around, and I think he's going to be an interesting character to see going forward. Um, Moved pretty fast, and I kind of wonder what exactly this movie is trying to do for the future as well. And like, I think it would have been nice to maybe see some more characters. Like, I actually really liked seeing Piccolo. I guess that's sort of what I mean by the substance. But again, that's not really. I'm not treating that as a negative. I'm treating that more of like a. It would have been nice if, but since we didn't get that, that's fine. Though there's apparently supposed to be a Broly version that's going to be in theaters in Japan where it shows more stuff, and I don't know. Maybe that'll be in the Blu-ray release. I imagine they might pump the Blu-ray and DVD and whatnot out pretty quickly because they've had this dubbed for a while. I think. I mean, heck, we got it like a month. We got it a month and a couple of days after Japan. That is saying a lot for Dragon Ball. Or like even for Dragon Ball, that's saying a lot because like there's for an anime movie, there's never been an anime movie that's had that quick of a turnaround time for Japanese to English. That's never happened. And one that got this big of a showing, like I'm recording this on the 17th. I'm gonna be interested to see kind of what the box office numbers were for this movie. It was pretty packed. I didn't notice any like empty seats. And of course, like it was assigned seating, so I could have in theory checked and be all like, oh well, I wonder if it's a packed house. Like I could go in and like try and buy a ticket and see. Like, of course, I guess it could have told me like, sorry, there are no seats and it's assigned seats. But yeah, this was a great movie, and I would definitely recommend it if you like Dragon Ball, or if you're itching to see your boy Broly in a new light. It's gonna move pretty fast, so be sure to have plenty of food with you. It's going to be lots of action, though, so I think you'll love it, you being the listener. So, yeah, this was a great movie. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. This is Flamzer on Nikki Sasuke signing out. This was a good movie. Go see it or buy it on Blu-ray when it comes out. See you later.